Hey, so today we are going to be pulling from page 32 of my book and page 33. And the title for this short talk in 15 minutes each is going to be Own Your Story by Embracing Your Vulnerability. Own your story by embracing your vulnerability. And I'll start with a story. Uh, Serena Williams, I'm sure most of us are familiar with her. She's one of the most successful athletes of all times. But there was a time she struggled with postpartum depression. What that means is after having a baby, she had depression following it, clinical depression, which as psychiatrists, that's one of the things we manage. And but she owned her story, and when she was able to share her story, her candidness made her more relatable. People could relate with her vulnerability, and then she empowered mothers worldwide to be able to speak up with what they are struggling with. And that is the opening story for today. Serena Williams struggled with postpartum depression. She owned it, she was vulnerable, and she shared it. And sharing it was helpful for other people all over the world. People could relate to it. So, what do we mean when we say own your story? Is acknowledging and taking responsibility for your experiences, no matter how messy it is. I just shared with us the example of Serena Williams. And we all have experiences, we all have stories that are messy in our lives. No matter how messy it is, we've just got to own it. One of the solutions to turn your mess to a message. So this pages 32 and 3 and chapter 3, which is turn your mess to a message in my book, Adapt and Advance. One of the ways you can turn your mess into a message is by owning your story. So when there's a mess in your life, you just got to own it and accept it as it is first. In psychotherapy, one of the things we tell our patients is that they need to accept. In fact, there's a particular form of psychotherapy that we call acceptance and commitment therapy, where we let people know that they need to accept things as it is. So you've got to accept it as it is. Before, and I shared my story in the book that I've made poor financial decisions in the past, and there have been times that have put us in financial challenge, and there have been times when not necessarily I made any decision, that just the reality of things. For example, I shared in the book on page 33 that coming to the US for my PhD 5 years, followed by postdoc 2 years, and followed by residency 4 years. That's 11 years of training, of course, has put, of course, a lot of financial strain, both on me as a person and on the family, because it's like being in training for 11 full years after reaching a very high level previously before leaving Nigeria. So I own it. Like, okay, apart from making poor decisions in the past, there is a current situation based on that. I've got to own it. So owning it personally helped me to come up with solutions. For example, as soon as there was opportunity during my residency for moonlighting, which is making extra money, of course, doing extra work, so that it does make extra money without anything, but of course, doing extra work and making extra money. Of course, I jumped on it. I did that about the last 2 years of my residency. I was able to pay up some debt with some of the money. Was able to invest some of the money too. And even during residency too, I remember one of the things I did was pick a relatively higher percentage to invest in terms of my retirement. So, so those were two things I did. But if I had to first own that there's a problem first before I could choose those solutions, picking a higher level investment for retirement, and also working extra money to pay up debt when the opportunity came up. And one example that comes to mind from the Bible that I would like to share is David, when he had that affair with Bathsheba, and he was involved both in murder, in adultery, and all of that. Fine, initially tried to save his face, but eventually he came up, he owned it. He said he was sorry. And despite all of that, he's still one of the greatest men in history, at least as far as the Bible or Christianity is concerned. And because he was able to own it. that okay, I'm sorry I did this. So at times, no matter how messy what we are dealing with is, at some point we've got to hone it and say that honing it is the first step in turning your mess into your message. You can only turn a story you have honed into a message. If you don't hone it, it cannot be a message. So now we are moving on to embracing vulnerability. To turn struggles into strengths, you must first accept your imperfections and be willing to share them. And that is vulnerability. You've got to be authentic. And that's one of the ways you can build connections with people. One of the reasons I share a lot of my stories is, you build genuine connections with people when you're able to share your story. So you've got to accept your imperfections and be willing to build genuine connections by sharing it. So there's a book titled The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown, where she shared a lot about our own personal shame. And the book, was able to reach out to a lot of people, thousands and maybe even millions, and be a blessing to people because she was able to share her story. One of the things she said in the book is, I am far from being perfect. So you have to be able to say that I'm not perfect. But of course, that does not mean that you are not moving towards perfection. You are not working towards perfection. But accept the fact that right now, I am not where I need to be. And also on page 32, I also shared that one of the reasons personally I talk about the exams I've failed, I have a long list of them. It's just for people to know I'm also not perfect. And things have not been handed to me easily. I've had to fight at every stage of my life to move forward at every single stage. I can remember even back in my elementary school days. I remember when I was in the very first grade, they had this practice then back in the elementary school where I was, where when you do poorly, they put you on a particular row. I don't know if it have ever happened in the US before. There's a particular row where they put those that did most poorly on a test. There was a time I did poorly in maths, and I was put on that row. And I remember my dad was teaching me like every single day. And I remember at the time I was taken away from that row. At every stage, even from elementary school till now, I've had to fight to make progress. So what I would say is, you've got to accept that vulnerability and then plan how to change that story for better. So what's the call to action for today? Two call to actions as always. One for you as a person is hone your story. What story do you have that you find it so hard to talk about? I want you to hone that story today. Honing it means accepting that you are not the best. You make mistakes and there are weaknesses, and you are not your mistakes. Um, and there's another story of that I read in a book, Start from Zero by Dane Maxwell, where he shared how, in his own words, he stole somebody's maybe letter or template and used it as his own, and it led to a big issue in the future. I think 5 years later, and he said he was really sorry. He lost a mentor because of that. He lost a trusted staff because of that. And he said he was sorry. In fact, he wrote that like a whole chapter in his book, Start from Zero. So, when you make mistakes, learn to hone it and then move on. But today, he's written his book, he talked about it, he's moved on with his life. So when there are issues that you need to hone it and then move on. Hone it and then move on. So call to action one is hone it and then plan how to turn it from a mess into a message. So that embrace vulnerability, own your story. The second call to action is our corporate call to action for Adapt and Advance family, for all those who watch the videos. And the corporate call to action for today is get ready for July 1st. Hopefully you watch this video before July 1st. Or for the entire month of July is the big launch. So get ready for the big launch. And I want every single person to buy a copy. I'm going to leave the price at 0.99 for the ebook throughout the month of July. I want every single one affiliated with us, one way or the other, to get an e-copy. This is $0.99, and I believe every one of us can part with 0.99 or $1 for the cost of Adapt and Advance. So please plan to buy. If you've bought the hard copy, thank you. But please just plan to get the ebook on July 1st. Or if you miss July 1st, as soon as you're able to, please, let's all plan to get the ebook. I'm looking forward to, as much as if 500 of us can buy the ebook at $0.99 in the month of July, that'd be wonderful. So mark your calendar for July 1st to get the ebook for $1. So that's the corporate call to action. Your personal call to action is to own something that you can do. And then today, the map lamp summary for today using the map lamp principle. M is meaning making. Part of meaning making that is very relevant to what we've talked about today is even meaning making too. Part of it is honing your story. So meaning making today, honing your story itself is meaning making. Action, I just give it an action to. The call to action for today is pick that area of your life where you are struggling and hone it. Accept vulnerability and plan how to turn it even from a mess to a message. Number 3 will be P is planning. Take time to sit down, look at that mess and plan it. How am I going to turn this around for good? I give you an example of the financial struggles I had as a result of being in school for too long, the PhD postdoc residency. The 2 things I did in the last 4 years. One, I increased my retirement income just to have more savings. And I also did what? I worked extra hours as soon as more like for the last 2 years of my residency, third and fourth year, I did that. So plan some, of course, I had to sit down to plan, how am I going to fit this into my life? Learning, I talked about the story of Dan Maxwell. This is a wonderful book. I've talked about it in past videos, but relevant to this video because it's shared his experience of, that's chapter 19, learning from mistakes and breaks of integrity. So the story I told you about him is chapter 19 in this book, where he said he was sorry for using somebody's product and calling it his own. Then alliance formation. A is alliance formation. Of course, you can't do life alone. I talked about Serena Williams, Dan Williams. All of them did not do life alone. You've got to work with people. I gave you my own personal testimony of how I was able to moonlight. Of course, I had to get approval from my program director. So I had to be in good relationship with her and other people. I had to work with other people too. I had to be in good relationship with them. I shared my story of failing exams. I didn't pass on my own. I needed help. I had people that I work with in tutorials and stuff that we work together to make success. So you've got to work with people to get out of where you are to where you want to be. And then M, which is mission statement, is always have a mission statement. I always have financial mission statement I say every single day as part of my daily confessions, where I want to be financially at the age of 50, at the age of 60, 70, 80, 90. So have a clear mission statement in areas, especially where you are struggling. Where I am now were things I wrote years ago. The missions that I have. So you've got to have it, write it down clearly, the goals you want to achieve, and the broad mission, and then the specific goals. And lastly will be prayers. I told you about David, who said he was sorry. And there was a particular Bible verse in Psalm, create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit within me. So you can always, if it's something that you've done that is wrong, you've got to come to God and say, Lord, create in me a clean heart and renew a right spirit within me. Confess and get things right, and then pray about it. That is it for today. Like the video, share the video, encourage other people to get it. If you've not bought my books, get a hard copy right now and plan to get the ebook on July 1st. Thank you so much. Bye. Thanks for watching.